Smuggling of people into Australia is an ongoing transnational crime that affects Australia and its people every day. People are smuggled into Australia by either air or sea from many countries, including Indonesia. People often travel illegally to Indonesia and from there are legally transported to Australia. People smuggling has most recently been defined by the Protocol by the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organised Crime as the procurement in order to obtain, directly or indirectly, a financial or other material benefit of the illegal entry of a person into a state party of which the person is not a national or permanent resident. Currently, Australia is taking a whole-government approach to this issue, and many agencies are cooperating on this issue, including the Australian Federal Police and the Department of Immigration and Multicultural Affairs. According to data from the University of Queensland, the recorded number of people smuggled into Australia between 1999 and 2014 was 89,078. As that is only the recorded number of people who attempted to enter the country illegally, the true number could be significantly higher. People smuggling into Australia occurs by air or sea. People pay the smugglers thousands of dollars to be smuggled into Australia and are often crammed for days with dozens of other people onto small boats in order to be smuggled illegally into Australia. They suffer awful conditions in very unsafe vessels. People smuggling is a major threat due to the quarantine and health risks, the security and criminal concerns that arise, the cost of processing and logistical issues, and the infringement of a country's sovereignty. Quarantine and health issues arise from people illegally entering a country. This is particularly an issue for Australia and other island countries, as persons illegally entering a country could bring diseases and banned items into a country without the government knowing. It also means criminals could be entering the country, which is a serious security and criminal concern for governments. It is also very costly for governments. 2014-2015 financial year, the Australian government spent $1.2 billion on detaining refugees and asylum seekers. It cost the Australian government $400,000 to detain one asylum seeker for 1 year. Australia acknowledges that stopping people smuggling requires an international effort and participates in a number of global forums, including the Interpol Operation Bridge, the Bali Process, and the Law Enforcement Cooperation Program, and works with many other countries in an attempt to stop people smuggling. However, international cooperation is often difficult. In August 2001, 433 people were rescued at sea near Christmas Island. They were planning to claim asylum when they reached Australia. Indonesia had accepted coordination of the rescue, and the closest suitable port was in Indonesia. However, the ship was in Australian waters. Norwegian ship HMAS Tampa, rescued the people and started towards Indonesia. However, several rescuees threatened to jump ship if the captain did not change course for Australia. The Australian government provided medical assistance and food, but still refused permission for the ship to enter Australian territorial waters, as they did not have any right to be there. They returned to Australian waters, and the Australian government sent SAS troops to board the ship. Rescuees were not allowed to leave the ship except to leave Australian waters. The captain refused to leave Australian waters whilst rescuees were still on board. Arrangements made to process the rescuees in New Zealand and Nauru. The Australian government tried to persuade Indonesia to accept the asylum seekers. Indonesia, however, refused. Norway also refused to accept the asylum seekers and reported Australia to the United Nations, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and the International Maritime Organization for alleged failure to obey its duties under international law, though it did not ask for the assistance of any of these organizations. The Australian government maintains that it was illegal for the HMS Tampa to enter Australian waters without permission, and there were several legal cases around this issue. This incident caused a diplomatic dispute between Australia and Norway. One of the major issues with people smuggling is the lack of cooperation between governments when in regard to this issue. Further issues include diplomatic disputes that can arise from it, the treatment of refugees and other asylum seekers once detained, and the possible infringements on a country's sovereignty that can arise. In further assessments, I hope to further address the issues of international cooperation, diplomatic disputes, and the infringement of countries' sovereignties and the treatment of smuggled people. Countries, including Australia, need to work better with other governments in a more cooperative manner in regard to people smuggling and the treatment of smuggled people.